While many of Fujifilm users were eagerly waiting for the X-E5, Fujifilm threw a curveball. In this video I want to share my mixed opinion on this new Fujifilm X-T50 camera, since I currently own X-T30 II and prior to that had X100F camera. This video will be split into few parts, where I will discuss the new design with some controversial details, then we will talk about specs, price, how it compares against other Fujifilm cameras including X-T30 II and X-T5, and I will conclude with my personal impressions. Don't forget to share your thoughts and what you think in the comments below, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right in. When I first saw leaked images of the X-T50, I didn't really like how it looked. The photos were low quality and made the camera look awkward. But after seeing better quality images and videos like on the Petapixel and Omar Gonzalez channels, I changed my mind. The design is actually pretty good. I like that Fujifilm made some changes to the design, since the older models all look the same. The new curves on the body make it look more like a Leica camera in my opinion, giving it a modern retro look. Fujifilm also made the grip bigger, which I hope should stop people from adding aftermarket grips. The grip on my X-T30 II was fine for me, but it wasn't for everyone, so I hope this new grip on the X-T50 will be better. The camera still has front and back command dials. The thumb grip with quick menu button has moved to the side, which is good because many people accidentally pressed it on the X-T30 cameras. The top right side of the camera still has dials for adjusting shutter speed and exposure compensation, but they are slightly curved, and I'm not sure if I like that yet. The most controversial change is the new film simulation dial on the left side, replacing the shooting mode dial. Is it bad that Fuji got rid of the shooting mode dial? I don't think so. I usually shoot either in single shot or continuous mode, so I don't use that dial much on my X-T30 II. If it's gone, I can add this setting to the quick menu and it will be fine. Although I sometimes shoot some videos with my Fuji and that dial was actually handy to quickly jump between shooting photos and videos. Now, the new film simulation dial could be useful for people not familiar with film simulations, but if you use film recipes, it could be a problem. As you might know, the Fujifilm film recipes include more than just film simulation. According to film recipe, we need to change not only film simulation but also other settings such as highlights and shadows, colors and more. And Fujifilm gives option to save 7 custom settings for your film recipes and switch between them. I often switch between saved film recipes using the quick menu, and it would be nice to do that with a physical dial. But since the dial only can change film simulation without the rest settings, I doubt it would be very useful for advanced Fujifilm users. Let me know what is your opinion on that new film simulation dial. Would you use it or not? Now to the specs of the new X-T50 camera. Here we got new 40 megapixel sensor, X processor 5, both are the same as on X-T5. Also now there is in-body image stabilization rated at up to 7 stops, 20 film simulations including Reala AC, video capture up to 6.2K 30 frames per second with crop, raw video out over HDMI and UHS 2 memory card slot. On one hand, the specs of the X-T50 are great, but it's pretty much what you would expect from a lighter version of the X-T5, just like with the X-T3 and X-T30 before. The specs are also similar to those of other cameras in its class, so there is nothing too extraordinary. For me, the biggest improvement since the X-T30 II is the in-body image stabilization. This would be a huge deal for me. With my X-T30 II, I like to record ambient videos of cities or nature when I travel. Since my X-T30 II doesn't have image stabilization, I have to use zoom lens with optical stabilization, but it has a dark aperture. With the X-T50 and its in-body stabilization, I could use all my lenses with brighter apertures even if they don't have optical stabilization. Then I have mixed feelings about the new 40 megapixel sensor. For me, these small Fuji cameras are meant for casual use or as a backup cameras. A 40 megapixel sensor means increased image details, sure, but also it means bigger file sizes, which isn't ideal. Plus, not all Fuji lenses can take full advantage of that sensor. But how do you feel about having 40 megapixels in small Fuji cameras? Does the increased file size bother you? If you are an X-T5 or X106 user, share your experience with this sensor. The video capabilities got upgraded a bit and are now on par with competitors. Fuji also finally included a 3.5mm mic jack. Before it was smaller and you needed an adapter to connect a mic. Overall, the specs are what you would expect from a lighter version of the X-T5, but some features like dual memory card slots are still missing in the smaller version. Now let's talk about the most upsetting part of this camera, the price. The estimated retail price of the X-T50 is $1399, and I still can't believe it. Yes, you might say that in the past few years there has been a lot of inflation, and that Fuji made huge upgrades in the specs, but let's take a moment to compare. When the Fujifilm X-T4 was released in 2020, its price was $1699. The X-T30 Mark II was released in 2021 at $899, making an $800 difference between those two cameras. Now the X-T5 was released in 2022 for the same $1699, and this year the X-T50 is released at $1399, which is $500 more than the X-T30 Mark II. Yes, the X-T50 comes with much better specs, but so does the X-T5. Each new model always comes with better specs. Companies don't release new products with the same specs as the previous one, so this increase in price is significant. Furthermore, the X-T30 Mark II was $800 cheaper than the X-T4, but the X-T50 is just $300 cheaper than the X-T5. Now you must consider if it's worth getting the X-T50 instead of the X-T5. If the size doesn't matter, it would be a hard choice for me to get the X-T50 over the X-T5, which is a bit more expensive but offers more features. I think Fujifilm made a mistake with the pricing of this camera. Well, actually I don't think they did, because I believe Fujifilm has a lot of smart people who know what they are doing. But from a general consumer standpoint, it is hard to justify this huge increase in price. If the quality of the X-T50 is like the X-T30 Mark II, I wouldn't consider the X-T50 a smaller X-T5 alternative for professional work. I will release a video in the future where I will talk about why I think the X-T30 Mark II and the upcoming X-T50 aren't meant for professional work. So subscribe to the channel so you won't miss that video if you are interested. Now, I want to compare the X-T50 to both the X-T5 and the X-T30 Mark II. With this price strategy, I think Fujifilm will keep selling the X-T30 Mark II, and the X-T50 will be a middle ground between the X-T30 Mark II and the X-T5. Upgrading from the X-T30 Mark II, you get a new sensor, processor, in-body image stabilization, better grip, and a film simulation dial that can be either useful or just a gimmick. With the X-T5 over the X-T50, you get a bigger camera with weather sealing, a better electronic viewfinder, and some other minor features, such as better tilting screen. It's quite an interesting lineup. Fujifilm probably thinks the X-T30 Mark II is enough for casual shooting, so there is no need to upgrade that camera, which is kind of true. I use the X-T30 Mark II to document my family's life, and I am completely satisfied with this camera. I don't see why I would need to upgrade, maybe only for the in-body image stabilization to shoot some videos of my family. The X-T50 is geared more toward pro photographers who might consider it as a second or backup camera in their kit, or just Fujifilm enthusiasts who want to upgrade their camera. Fujifilm just decided to get extra money from those people, and that's it. It sounds bad, but it's business. If a company sees how to increase profit, they will do that. And without discontinuing the X-T30 Mark II, they have the exact lineup of cameras for that. In all honesty, Fujifilm should have discontinued the X-T30 Mark II along with the X-E4 and replaced them with the X-T50 at the same price, but unfortunately we didn't get that. And what do I think about the new Fujifilm X-T50 camera? The overall upgrade is nice with a good design update. Unfortunately, the price is a big disadvantage for me. I thought I would be able to sell my X-T30 Mark II, add a few $100 and upgrade to the X-T50, but now I'll have to add almost the full price of a new X-T30 Mark II to upgrade to the X-T50, which is a big deal. I need to decide if the in-body image stabilization is worth the extra money. Maybe it's better to look for a used X-T5 instead, or just stick with my X-T30 Mark II. I'm not sure and need to think it over. If you have suggestions, share them in the comments below. What I would actually like to see is an upgrade to the X-T30 Mark II with added in-body image stabilization and a few other minor features, but for the same price. I don't need the 40 megapixel sensor, so I would definitely pick in-body image stabilization over a higher megapixel count. If you already own the X-T30 Mark II or were thinking about getting the X-T50 but also find the price too high, stick with the X-T30 Mark II. It's still a great camera, even though it doesn't have IBIS, which I've mentioned few times already. If you are looking for a less expensive camera, even though $900 is still a lot, check out the Fujifilm X-T30 Mark II. It's a great casual camera, just not for professional use, which I will cover in my future video. Now share what you think in the comments below. What are your thoughts on this new X-T50 Fujifilm camera? Its design, specs and price. Is it worth the price increase? Would you consider getting it? Share all your thoughts below. I'm curious to discuss everything with you. If you watched this far, thank you for your time. Keep your heads up, have a nice day and keep shooting.